Good day, everyone. My name is Teacher Ann, and welcome to Part 6, Text Completion of the TOEIC Reading Practice. Today, we will discuss about subordinate conjunctions. Are you ready? Let's begin. First, what are subordinate conjunctions? Subordinate conjunctions join two clauses, an independent clause and a dependent clause. An independent clause can stand alone, while a dependent clause cannot, and it can come before or after the independent clause. The conjunction introduces the dependent clause. Here are some of the conjunctions that we are going to learn in this lesson. First are the conjunctions because and since, which both introduce a reason, while although, though, and even though introduce contradiction. Conjunctions that introduce a time clause are before, after, when, whenever, while, and as soon as. Let's go to the example sentences for their uses. Number 1. The office closed early because the weather was so bad. The sentence is composed of an independent clause first, then the dependent clause, which is introduced by the conjunction because. Number 2. Even though they worked all night, they weren't able to meet the deadline. This sentence started with a dependent clause introduced by the conjunction even though, then an independent clause. Number 3. He checked his message as soon as he arrived at the office. First is an independent clause, then a dependent clause introduced by the conjunction as soon as. Now, let's have the strategies in answering the TOEIC exam. First, when the answer choices include subordinate conjunctions, ask yourself these questions. Does the dependent clause describe a reason? Then choose because or since. Does the dependent clause contradict the main clause? If so, choose though, even though, or although. Also, is the dependent clause an action that occurred before, after, or at the same time as the action in the main clause? Then choose before, after, or a similar time expressions. In this example, the dependent clause blank, he was a hard worker, contradicts the main clause, they did not give him a salary raise. A hard worker can expect to get a salary raise. So, the correct choice is although, letter D. And strategy number 2. If you don't know the answer, proceed to the next one. This way, you have the assurance to have answered all the questions you are sure about. Moreover, this will give you more time to look back and think of the answers for the questions you skipped. I hope you're ready. Let's go now to the practice exercises. Number 1. Blank, they were tired, they worked overtime. A, because, B, whenever, C, since, or D, although. In this sentence, they were tired implies a negative, which means they should rest already. But the independent clause says they worked overtime, which contradicts the idea. When stating a contradiction, which conjunction should be used? Right, it's letter D, although. Number 2. Mr. Kim visits our office, blank, he is in the neighborhood. A, before, B, but, C, whenever, D, even though. Visits our office in the first clause and he is in the neighborhood are both positive. So let's eliminate letters B and D, which indicates contradiction. That leaves us with time conjunctions before and whenever. With before, it signifies a specific time. The tenses of the verbs visits and is are just possibilities, which means the time is uncertain. We use whenever if the time is uncertain. Clearly, letter C is the correct answer. Number 3. Blank Mr. Park worked for us. He had received training abroad. A. Before. B. While. C. As soon as. D. Whenever. In this sentence, all conjunctions fall under time clause. So let's analyze the verbs in this matter. There are two time frames implied because of the verbs worked in simple past tense and had received, which is in the past perfect tense, which means the two actions did not happen at the same time, but one happened first before the other. While is used for two actions happening at the same time. As soon as and whenever both are used for uncertain times. The answer is letter A, before. Number 4. Please answer the phone, blank it rings. A. Even though. B. When. C. Because. Or D. Before. The idea in this sentence suggests a condition that if the phone rings, it should be answered. Therefore, a conjunction for time clause should be used. Only when and before are our possible choices here. Before states an exact time. When is used for possibilities or conditions. So obviously, the answer is letter B, when. Number 5. He took a second job, blank he needed extra money. A. Because. B. Though. C. Before. D. When. Understanding the relationship of the two clauses here, taking a second or another job means one badly needs money. He needed extra money only supports or explains the necessity of the first clause. Therefore, the conjunction should introduce a reason. Which do you think is the correct answer? Correct. It's letter A, because. Number 6. The soccer game won't be postponed, blank, it looks like raining. A. Because. B. Although. C. Since. Or D. When. We know that a soccer game should be held outdoor, and it seems like it will rain. Therefore, it should be canceled. But the first sentence says it won't be postponed. With this, the two sentences actually contradict with each other. Which conjunction signifies contradiction? Right, it's letter B, although. Number 7. Blank profits have improved. We're all getting bonuses. A. Since. B. Before. C. Even though. Or D. Although. Notice that the two clauses are both positive, with the clues improved and getting bonuses, which means the second clause supports the first. Therefore, the conjunction to be used here is not concerned about time nor contradiction, but a reason. So obviously, the answer is correct. It's letter A, since. Number 8. Miss Adams refused the promotion, blank it meant she would get a big raise. A. Because. B. Before. C. Though. Or D. When. Here, the first clause suggests a negative idea because of the phrase refused, wherein promotion actually means getting a big raise in salary, which is positive. So since we have negative and positive ideas here, therefore, the two show contradiction. Letter A is about reason. Letters B and D are both for time. Hence, the answer is letter C, though. Very good. Number 9. The hotel will accept no guests blank it's being renovated. A, though, B, while, C, before, or D, although. Seeing the choices here, we only have conjunctions for time and contradiction. If the hotel is being renovated or restored, it can't accept guests since it will be dangerous. Therefore, let's eliminate letters A and D. If the hotel is not yet on renovation, most probably they can still accept guests before the period. When can't they accept guests? Right, it's as soon as the renovation takes place. Obviously, the answer is letter B, while. Number 10. Restaurant food handlers must wear latex gloves blank they are required by health organizations. A, because, B, before, C, though, or D, while. Looking at the second clause, it actually answers or supports the first clause of why is there a need for restaurant food handlers to wear latex gloves because of the clues must and required. So here, we're not talking about time and contradiction. Definitely, letters B, C, and D are not answers, but only A, because. Analyzing the relationship of the two clauses, whether they signal reason, time, or contradiction, is implied by conjunctions, so be careful when using them. So that's all for our lesson today. Thank you for watching and see you in the next episode.